English Daily, the podcast.
Your English journey starts now. Hey, English learners! Welcome back to your podcast, the English Daily Podcast. I'm Anna, and I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Jack, and I'm thrilled to be joining you for another episode. Anna, it's always such a pleasure to record these podcasts with you.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, Jack. You always bring such great energy and insights to our conversations. I really appreciate that about you.
Well, Anna, I could say the same about you. You always make our listeners feel so welcome and comfortable. That's a special gift, you know?
Thank you so much, Jack. That means a lot to me. And you know what? I think our listeners today are in for a really special treat because we have an amazing topic to discuss.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And speaking of today's topic, Anna, why don't you tell everyone what we're going to be talking about?
Absolutely, Jack. So today's episode is all about creating a weekly English learning routine and how to balance your listening and speaking practice. We're going to give you practical tips on how to structure your week, what activities to focus on, and most importantly, how to keep yourself motivated without burning out.
That sounds incredibly useful. And I think this is something that a lot of learners struggle with, right, Anna? They want to improve their English, but they don't know how to organize their time effectively.
Exactly, Jack. I've had so many learners tell me that they feel overwhelmed or don't know where to start. They might be doing some listening, but they're not practicing speaking enough, or they're doing too much grammar and not enough real-world practice. That's why we wanted to create this episode, to help people find that balance.
And you know what? That's completely normal. Learning a language is a journey, and it's okay to feel a little lost at the beginning. The important thing is to have a plan and stick with it. That's exactly what we're going to help you with today.
Yes, and we really believe that consistency is key, but also that you need to enjoy the process. If you're not having fun while learning, you're less likely to stick with it. That's why we're going to talk about the Sunday for Fun approach, making sure you have light, enjoyable English activities throughout your week so you don't get burned out.
I love that concept. And here's our strategic hook for you today. Learning English is a marathon, not a sprint. It's not about cramming as much as possible into a short time. It's about making small, consistent efforts over a long period. That's how real, lasting progress happens.
That's such an important mindset to have, Jack. And I think a lot of learners struggle with that because they compare themselves to others or have unrealistic expectations. But everyone learns at their own pace, and that's perfectly okay.
Absolutely. So whether you're a beginner who's just starting out or you're already speaking well and want to take your English to the next level, you'll find something useful in today's episode. We've designed it to be practical and actionable.
Jack, do you want to give our listeners a sneak peek of what we're going to cover?
Of course. So here's what we have in store for you. First, we're going to talk about why having a balanced weekly routine is so important. Then we'll dive into why listening and speaking specifically need to be balanced. After that, we'll walk you through designing your own weekly schedule, something that's practical and sustainable. We'll also introduce our fun Sunday for Fun approach, which I think our listeners are going to love. And finally, we'll share some tips for staying motivated and avoiding burnout. Plus, we'll have our vocabulary breakdown and reflection questions at the end.
That sounds like a comprehensive episode. And I'm especially excited about the vocabulary section because we're going to learn some really useful phrases related to routines and language learning. They're phrases that you can start using immediately in your daily conversations.
Yes, and I think the reflection questions are going to be really helpful too. They'll give you a chance to think about your own learning journey and identify areas where you can improve. So let's dive right in and talk about how to build a sustainable weekly routine.
Let's do it. Without further ado, let's get started. So, Jack, let's start by talking about why it's so important to have a balanced weekly routine when you're learning English. What's your take on this?
That's a great question, Anna. I think the key thing is that many learners focus too much on one skill. They might spend all their time doing grammar exercises, or only watching movies, or only practicing speaking. But the truth is, English learning needs all four skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing to develop together.
Exactly. I completely agree. When I first started learning Spanish, I was guilty as charged. I only wanted to watch TV shows because it was fun, but I never practiced speaking. And you know what happened? When I finally tried to have a conversation, I couldn't form sentences properly. I understood everything, but I couldn't produce any language.
Oh, wow, that's so relatable. I think many learners can relate to that. It's like you have all this input, but the output part just doesn't catch up. And that's exactly why we need a balanced routine to make sure we're working on both receiving and producing language.
Right. And the thing is, each skill supports the others. When you listen a lot, you improve your pronunciation and intonation for speaking. When you read a lot, you build vocabulary that you can use in conversations. It's all connected.
So, Anna, what does a typical balanced week look like for you? How do you structure your learning time?
Well, let me think about this. I usually recommend that learners spend about 30 minutes to an hour each day on English, but the key is consistency. So that's 5 to 7 days a week. And within that time, I suggest dividing it into different activities. Maybe 20 minutes of listening, 20 minutes of reading, and 20 minutes of speaking practice. But the exact division depends on your goals and your current level.
I see. That's really practical advice. And I love that you mentioned consistency. It's not about cramming on the weekend, but about doing a little bit every day. That's what builds long-term habits.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about having a weekly routine is that it becomes automatic. You don't have to think about what to do next. You just follow your plan, and gradually, English learning becomes a natural part of your life, like brushing your teeth or having your morning coffee.
Oh, I like that comparison. It's like a daily habit that you just do without thinking. And that's exactly what we want, for English learning to become something you do automatically, not something you have to force yourself to do.
Exactly. And that's why we're going to give you a practical weekly plan in this episode. But first, let's talk more about why balancing listening and speaking is especially important.
So, Anna, why do you think listening and speaking are so important to balance? Why not just focus on one?
That's a really good question. The thing is, listening and speaking are connected in a special way. When you listen, you're training your ear to understand how native speakers sound. You're learning the rhythm, the intonation, the connected speech. And when you speak, you're using all of that input to produce language yourself.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So it's like a cycle. You listen to learn how English sounds, then you speak to practice producing those sounds, and then you listen again to see how you sound compared to native speakers. It's a continuous improvement cycle.
Exactly. You've got it. And another important point is that many learners are afraid of speaking. They think they're not ready or their pronunciation is not good enough. But the truth is, you learn by making mistakes. So the more you speak, the better you get. And listening helps you understand what's correct so you can correct yourself.
I know what you mean. When I was learning Japanese, I was so scared to speak because I thought I would make mistakes. But eventually, I realized that mistakes are part of the process. Nobody speaks perfectly from the start. Even native speakers make grammar mistakes sometimes.
That's so true. And that's why we need to create opportunities for both listening and speaking every week. Even if it's just 10 minutes of speaking practice, that's better than nothing. And even if it's just 10 minutes of listening, that helps train your ear.
So, what are some practical ways to balance listening and speaking? What activities would you recommend?
Great question. For listening, I recommend a variety of sources. You can listen to podcasts like this one, watch TV shows or movies with subtitles, listen to music and try to understand the lyrics, or even listen to audiobooks. The key is to listen to things that are a little bit challenging, but not too difficult. Something called I+1, where you can understand most of it, but there's some new vocabulary or grammar.
I love that I+1 concept. It's so important to challenge yourself, but not too much. Otherwise, you get frustrated. And for speaking?
For speaking, you can practice in many ways. You can talk to yourself in English, describing what you're doing. You can find a language exchange partner online. You can record yourself speaking and listen to it to check your pronunciation. You can also use apps that connect you with native speakers. And even singing along to English songs is a form of speaking practice.
Oh, I love the singing idea. That's so fun. And it's true. When you sing, you're practicing pronunciation and intonation in a low-pressure way. Nobody's judging you.
Exactly. And the best part is that you're having fun while learning. That's what we call passive learning. You're absorbing English without even realizing it.
That's the dream, right? To learn English while having fun. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next, how to create a weekly schedule that includes both listening and speaking, but also keeps things enjoyable so you don't burn out.
So, Jack, let's get practical. How would you design a weekly English learning schedule? What does a typical week look like?
Well, let me think about this. I like to think of it as a week with different focuses. For example, on Mondays, you might do more intensive listening practice. On Tuesdays, you might focus on speaking. On Wednesdays, you might do a mix of both, and so on.
I see. So you're suggesting varying the focus each day rather than doing the same thing every day.
Exactly. The reason is that different activities work different parts of your brain. If you only do one type of activity, you might get bored or hit a plateau. But if you mix it up, you stay engaged and make progress in multiple areas.
That makes sense. So what would a sample schedule look like? Can you give us an example?
Of course. Let me walk you through a sample weekly plan. This is just an example, and learners should adjust it to their own schedule and preferences.
Please do. This is exactly what our listeners need. Something practical they can start using immediately.
Okay, so let's say you have about 1 hour each day for English learning. Here's what I would suggest. On Monday, you could start with 20 minutes of listening to a podcast at your level, then 20 minutes of reading, maybe a news article or a blog post, and finally 20 minutes of speaking practice, where you record yourself talking about your day or a topic you care about.
That's a great start. And I love that you're including all 4 skills, even on the first day. That's really balanced.
Thank you. And then on Tuesday, you could switch it up. Maybe 30 minutes of listening to an audiobook or watching a TV show with subtitles, and 30 minutes of speaking practice, perhaps with a language partner or just talking to yourself.
What about Wednesday? What would you recommend for the middle of the week?
Wednesday could be a review day. You could spend 30 minutes reviewing vocabulary from the past few days, maybe using flashcards or a vocabulary app, and then 30 minutes of mixed practice. Maybe you listen to a song and try to understand the lyrics. Then you sing along to practice your pronunciation.
Oh, I love the song idea. That's such a fun way to practice. And it doesn't feel like studying, which is great for motivation.
Exactly. And then Thursday could be a speaking-focused day. You could practice conversations for 45 minutes, maybe with an app or a partner, and then 15 minutes of listening to relax and absorb more English.
Wait, that's a lot of speaking. Some learners might get tired or discouraged if they try to speak for 45 minutes straight.
That's a good point, Anna. You can break it up into smaller chunks, maybe 3 15-minute sessions throughout the day instead of one long 45-minute session. The key is to speak regularly, not necessarily for a long time at once.
That's much better advice. Small, consistent practice is often more effective than occasional long sessions. What about Friday?
Friday could be a listening-heavy day. Maybe you watch a movie or a TV show with subtitles, and then you spend some time reflecting on the week. What did you learn? What was challenging? What do you want to improve next week?
And what about the weekend? Do you recommend studying on weekends?
That's a great question. I think weekends should be more relaxed. You don't have to do formal study, but you can still expose yourself to English. Maybe watch an English movie without subtitles, or listen to English music, or read an English article about a topic you enjoy. The key is to keep the habit without burning out.
That's such important advice. The weekend is for fun English, passive exposure that doesn't feel like work. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next, the Sunday for fun approach. Okay, so let's talk about this Sunday for fun approach. Jack, what exactly do you mean by that?
So the idea is this. Many learners feel guilty if they don't study on weekends. They think they need to be productive every single day. But the truth is, rest is important too. Your brain needs time to process what you've learned.
Absolutely. I think this is something that a lot of learners struggle with. They feel like if they take a day off, they'll lose everything they've learned. But that's not how language acquisition works.
Right? It's like exercise. You can't lift weights every single day without giving your muscles time to recover. Same with learning. Your brain needs breaks.
So the Sunday for fun approach is about using Sunday as a light, enjoyable English day. Instead of formal study, you watch movies, listen to music, read for pleasure, all in English, but without the pressure of tests or exercises.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is that you're still learning even when you're having fun. You're absorbing vocabulary, getting used to the rhythm of English, and training your ear, all without feeling like you're studying.
It's like sneaking vegetables into a smoothie. You get the nutrition without tasting the greens.
I love that analogy. That's perfect. And the key is to watch movies with subtitles, especially if you're at an intermediate level. That way, you can see the written language while hearing it, which helps reinforce your learning.
That's a great point. But what if someone is a beginner? Should they watch with subtitles too?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the person. Some beginners benefit from subtitles because they can connect the written word with the spoken word, but others might rely too much on the subtitles and not train their ear enough. I'd say try both and see what works for you.
I agree. And another tip is to choose content that you genuinely enjoy. If you love action movies, watch action movies in English. If you love romantic comedies, watch those. The interest keeps you engaged, and you're more likely to stick with it.
That's so important. Too many learners force themselves to watch educational content that they hate. But if you hate it, you won't watch it consistently. So find what you love and consume it in English.
That's fantastic advice. And for listeners who are worried about understanding, start with shows or movies you've already seen before. You know the story, so you can focus on the language instead of trying to follow the plot.
That's a great tip. It's like watching your favorite movie for the 10th time. You already know what happens, so you can pay attention to the dialogue and learn new phrases.
So what are some specific movie or show recommendations for different levels? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. For beginners, I'd suggest children's movies or animated films. The language is simpler, the pace is slower, and the vocabulary is more basic. Movies like Finding Nemo or Shrek are great.
Oh, those are classics. And for intermediate learners?
For intermediate, you can try popular TV shows like Friends or The Office. They're conversational, use everyday language, and are really engaging. The humor helps keep you interested, too.
I love Friends. It's such a great show for learning casual English. And the episodes are short, which makes it easier to watch regularly.
Exactly. And for advanced learners, you can try dramas or documentaries. The language is more complex, and you can learn more sophisticated vocabulary and expressions.
That's really helpful. And remember, the goal is not to understand every single word. It's to get comfortable with the sound of English and pick up new phrases naturally. That's what the Sunday for Fun approach is all about.
So, Anna, let's talk about motivation. How do learners stay motivated over the long term? Because learning a language takes months or even years, not weeks.
That's such an important question, Jack. And I think the key is to set realistic expectations from the start. As our strategic hook says, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to become fluent in a month.
That's so true. I think many learners have unrealistic expectations. They think they'll be fluent in 6 months, and when they're not, they get discouraged and quit.
Exactly. It's so sad when that happens. So I always tell learners to celebrate small wins. Did you understand a movie without subtitles? That's a win. Did you have a 5-minute conversation in English? That's a win. Did you learn 10 new words? That's a win too.
I love that approach. It's so important to acknowledge your progress, no matter how small it seems. Those small wins add up over time.
And another tip is to track your progress. Keep a journal of what you learn each week, or use an app that shows your streak. There's something satisfying about seeing how far you've come.
Curious, what about when learners hit a plateau? They feel like they're not making progress anymore. How do they deal with that?
Plateaus are totally normal and happen to everyone. The key is to change something up. Maybe try a new type of content, a new study method, or a new speaking partner. Sometimes your brain just needs a fresh challenge to keep growing.
That's great advice. And another thing is to find a community. Learning English alone can be lonely, but if you join a group or find a study partner, you have support and accountability.
Absolutely. There are so many online communities for English learners. You can find language exchange partners, join study groups, or even participate in online discussions. It's a great way to stay motivated.
And don't forget to reward yourself. If you study consistently for a month, treat yourself to something you enjoy. It could be a favorite snack, a movie, or a day off from studying. Positive reinforcement works.
That's such a good point. We often focus on what we need to do, but we forget to reward ourselves for our hard work. Learning a language is hard, and you deserve recognition.
And finally, remember why you started. What's your reason for learning English? Is it for travel, career opportunities, connecting with friends or family? Keep that reason in mind when things get tough.
That's so powerful. When you have a clear why, it's easier to push through the difficult days. So take some time to reflect on your motivation and write it down somewhere visible.
And with that, I think we have a complete weekly routine for our listeners. Let's summarize what we've talked about so far and then move on to the vocabulary breakdown.
So, Jack, let's wrap up our main conversation with some practical tips. What should learners focus on this coming week?
Great question. Let me give you some actionable tips. First, choose a specific time each day for English learning. It could be during your morning commute, at lunch, or before bed. The key is to make it consistent.
I love that tip. Having a set time makes it easier to build a habit. It's like scheduling an appointment with yourself.
Exactly. Second, pick one listening resource and one speaking resource that you enjoy. It could be a podcast, a YouTube channel, an app, or a language partner, and commit to using them for at least 3 weeks.
Why 3 weeks? What's special about that time frame?
3 weeks is about the time it takes to form a new habit. If you can stick with something for 3 weeks, it becomes much easier to continue after that.
That's such a practical insight. And third?
Third, schedule your Sunday for fun activity. Decide what movie you're going to watch or what music you're going to listen to. Put it on your calendar so you don't skip it.
I love that. It's like scheduling playtime, and it reminds us that learning English should be enjoyable, not just a chore.
Exactly. And fourth, find an accountability partner. Tell a friend about your goal or join an online community. Having someone to check in with makes a huge difference.
What if someone doesn't know anyone who speaks English? How can they find an accountability partner?
There's so many options. You can use apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or Speaky to find language exchange partners. You can also join Facebook groups for English learners or participate in online forums. The internet has made it so easy to connect with people.
That's wonderful. And finally, fifth, be patient with yourself. Progress takes time. Trust the process and keep going, even when you don't see immediate results.
That's the most important tip, I think. Learning a language is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the ride, celebrate your progress, and remember that every step forward counts.
That's beautiful, Jack. And with that, let's move on to our vocabulary breakdown, where we'll learn some useful phrases for talking about routines and language learning.
Okay, everyone, it's time for our vocabulary breakdown. Today, we're going to learn 15 key phrases related to English learning routines and balancing skills.
I'm so excited about this. These phrases will really help you talk about your learning journey and create your own weekly routine.
To start, let's talk about our first phrase, to hit a plateau. This means to stop making progress after initially improving. It's a common experience for language learners.
Can you give us an example, Jack?
Sure. I was making great progress for the first 3 months, but then I hit a plateau and felt like I wasn't improving anymore.
That's a great example. And the tip is, when you hit a plateau, try changing your study method or materials. That often helps you break through.
Exactly. Our second phrase is to build a habit. This means to make something a regular part of your routine, almost automatic.
I use this one all the time. It took me about 3 weeks to build a habit of studying English every morning.
That's perfect. And the key to building a habit is consistency. Do it every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
A third phrase is to mix it up. This means to vary your activities or try different things to keep things interesting.
Great phrase. Example, I like to mix it up by listening to podcasts on some days and watching movies on others.
That's a great example. It prevents boredom and helps you develop different skills.
Fourth phrase, to find your rhythm. This means to discover a routine or pace that works well for you.
I love this one. It took me a while to find my rhythm, but now I study English for 30 minutes every morning before work.
That's the goal. Everyone's rhythm is different, so don't compare yourself to others.
Fifth phrase, to break up into chunks. This means to divide something into smaller parts to make it easier to manage.
Can you explain that one, Anna?
Of course. I break my speaking practice up into chunks of 10 minutes throughout the day, rather than doing 30 minutes at once.
That's much more manageable, and it reduces the chance of getting tired or bored.
Sixth phrase, to stay engaged. This means to remain interested and involved in what you're doing.
That's key. Example, to stay engaged, I always choose English content that I actually enjoy, not just what someone recommends.
That's so important. If you don't enjoy the content, you won't stick with it.
Seventh phrase, to take a day off. This means to rest or not do your usual activity for a day.
This is relevant to our Sunday for Fun discussion. Example, I take Sundays off from formal studying, but I still watch English movies for fun.
Perfect example. Rest is important for long-term learning.
Eighth phrase, to track your progress. This means to monitor or record how you're doing over time.
Example, I use a journal to track my progress and see how much I've improved over the months.
That's a great habit. It helps you see your growth even when it doesn't feel like you're improving.
Ninth phrase, to set realistic expectations. This means to have goals that are achievable, not overly ambitious.
This is crucial. Example, I set realistic expectations for myself and celebrate small wins instead of aiming for perfection.
That's the right mindset. Learning a language takes time.
10th phrase, to push through. This means to continue despite difficulties or challenges.
Example, there were days when I didn't want to study, but I pushed through and kept going.
That's inspiring. Persistence is key.
11th phrase, to commit to something. This means to dedicate yourself to doing something regularly.
Example, I committed to studying English for 30 minutes every day for 6 months.
That's a great commitment, and it shows how powerful dedicated practice can be.
12th phrase, to find a balance. This means to distribute your time and effort evenly between different activities.
Example, I'm trying to find a balance between listening and speaking practice in my weekly routine.
That's exactly what we talked about today. Balance is essential.
13th phrase, to keep something in mind. This means to remember or consider something when making decisions.
Example, I keep in mind why I started learning English whenever I feel discouraged.
That's powerful. Your motivation is your anchor.
14th phrase, to break through. This means to overcome a barrier or obstacle.
Example, I changed my study method and finally broke through my language plateau.
That's a great success story. Changing approaches can really help.
And finally, 15th phrase, to switch it up. This is similar to mix it up. It means to change what you're doing.
Example, when I get bored, I switch it up by trying a different type of podcast or app.
Variety keeps learning fresh and exciting.
Those are our 15 phrases. Practice using them in your daily conversations about learning English. They're super useful.
Now it's time for our reflection questions. These are for you to think about after the episode, or even discuss with a study partner.
Let's start with the first question. What is your current English learning routine? Do you have a set schedule, or do you study spontaneously?
Take a moment to think about this. If you don't have a routine yet, that's okay. This episode gives you ideas to create one.
Second question. How do you currently balance listening and speaking practice? Are you focusing more on one than the other?
Be honest with yourself. Many learners avoid speaking because it's scary, but that's exactly what you need to practice more.
Third question. What listening activities do you enjoy most? Podcasts, movies, music, audiobooks?
Think about what you already enjoy. That's what you should incorporate into your routine.
Fourth question. How often do you practice speaking English? Is it daily, weekly, or rarely?
If it's rarely, that's okay, but challenge yourself to speak at least a little bit every day, even if it's just to yourself.
Fifth question. What is one change you can make to your routine this week to improve your balance between listening and speaking?
Maybe you need to add more speaking practice or try a new listening resource. What will it be?
Sixth question. How can you incorporate the Sunday for fun approach into your weekly routine? What English content do you enjoy that feels like fun rather than study?
Maybe it's watching your favorite movie, listening to music, or reading a book in English. Whatever brings you joy.
Oh, seventh question. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to staying motivated with English learning?
Remember, identifying the challenge is the first step to overcoming it. Once you know what holds you back, you can address it.
Eighth question. How do you currently deal with plateaus or periods when you feel like you're not making progress?
Remember, plateaus are normal. Try changing your approach or celebrating how far you've come.
Ninth question. What is your why? Why are you learning English? Keep that reason in mind when things get tough.
Your motivation is your superpower. Write it down and look at it when you need inspiration.
And finally, 10th question. What is one specific thing you will do this coming week to move closer to your English learning goals?
Make it specific and achievable. Whether it's practicing speaking for 10 minutes a day or watching one movie with subtitles, every action counts.
Those are our 10 reflection questions. Take your time to think about them and remember that learning English is a journey. Enjoy every step.
Well, everyone, we've come to the end of another episode.
We hope you found this episode helpful and practical. Remember, consistency is key, but so is enjoying the process.
So create your weekly routine, balance your listening and speaking, and don't forget to have fun on Sundays.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on the English Daily Podcast.
Take care, everyone. Keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep enjoying the journey.
Bye for now. Your learning journey doesn't stop here. Keep improving your English. Click the next video or explore more episodes we've picked just for you. See you in the next lesson.